welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to cut through the noise, taking a whole stack of global sources, everything from breaking conflict news to, well, surprising stories about folklore and economics, and find the key insights you need.
Exactly. And today's sources, they paint a picture of a world dealing with some really intense pressures, military, environmental, political, but also, interestingly, how communities adapt, sometimes by kind of reinventing their story.
So we'll dig into what's happening right now and connect it to the why. Why does this matter?
That's the plan.
Okay, so here's where we're headed. Geopolitics first. Gaza, obviously, and then the U.S.-China dynamic playing out in South Korea, with North Korea in the background.
Then we'll switch gears, look at two major storms hitting simultaneously Jamaica and India. Big climate angle there.
Right, and after that, democratic challenges.
Yeah.
We'll look at the election in Tanzania.
And finally, something a bit different, the business of myth. How Sleepy Hollow, New York turned a story into an economic engine.
Okay, let's jump right in. The Middle East. Reports coming in about significant Israeli strikes in Gaza. Homes, schools, residential areas hit.
Yeah, multiple areas mentioned: Gaza City, Beit Lahia, Beray, Nusrat, Khan Yunis. It sounds widespread.
And the human cost is already clear. Figures from the Hamas-run civil defense put the initial count at 33 killed.
And they fear it'll go higher. People trapped under the rubble. That's always the awful reality in these situations.
We're seeing those specific tragic details emerge, too, like 14 people killed in one area of Gaza City, including 3 women and a man from the Al-Bana family.
And 5 members of another family, the Abu Sharar family, killed in Beray's refugee camp. Their home was hit directly.
So what's the context here? The Israeli rationale?
Well, according to the sources, Prime Minister Netanyahu ordered what he called forceful strikes. This was framed as a response after Hamas allegedly crossed a bright red line by attacking Israeli soldiers.
Oh, okay, so this links back to an earlier incident.
Exactly, an ambush. A reservist soldier, Master Sergeant Yona Ephraim Feldbaum, was killed in Rafah.
And how did that happen? The details.
Israeli media reported his engineering team was ambushed. Gunmen apparently came out of an underground tunnel system, used RPGs, rocket-propelled grenades.
Wow, that detail about the tunnels. It's a recurring factor, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's fundamental to the conflict dynamic there. It makes the whole environment incredibly complex, three-dimensional, not just fighting above ground.
Right. Okay, let's shift focus completely. Different kind of tension. U.S.-China diplomacy playing out in South Korea. President Trump's visit.
Yeah, he arrived expressing, well, a lot of optimism about his upcoming talks with President Xi Jinping. He used the phrase, very good outcome for both countries.
And the focus seems to be heavily on trade.
Definitely. He mentioned solving a lot of problems and even hinted the U.S. might lower some tariffs, specifically mentioned the ones related to fentanyl that were put on Beijing.
Interesting. And the setting for this, South Korea gave him quite the welcome, didn't they?
They did. The highest decoration, the Grand Order of Mugunghwa, pulled out all the stops.
But the timing. This happened just hours after North Korea tested a missile, a nuclear-capable cruise missile.
That's right. And according to the reports, Trump seemed unperturbed. His focus stayed squarely on the meeting with Xi.
So is that strategic focus, do you think? Or maybe a gamble, ignoring the provocation?
Hard to say, isn't it? It could be calculated, keep the trade talks clear, or, Pyongyang might read it differently. It's a delicate balance.
Always. And hovering over any U.S.-China discussion? Taiwan. Was that on the table?
Trump apparently said he was not sure if they'd discuss it. Kind of non-committal there.
But China, they weren't non-committal, were they?
Not at all. Their spokesperson, Peng Qian, was very clear. Yes, they want peaceful reunification, that whole one country, two systems idea.
There's always a but.
But crucially, they stated China will absolutely not renounce the use of force. They reserve the option to take all necessary measures. That's the firm line. It underpins everything else, even the friendly trade talk.
That clarity, that hard line, it contrasts sharply with, well, the sheer force of nature, which doesn't negotiate. Let's pivot to these climate events. Jamaica first. Hurricane Melissa.
Yeah, and it's ramped up. Category 4 now. The local government minister, Desmond McKenzie, said the entire country felt the brunt.
And the impact. What are we seeing?
Reports from Kingston show flooded streets, cars swamped, power lines down, roads blocked. It sounds chaotic.
And the forecast.
Grim. Up to 30 inches, that's 76 centimeters of rain expected in some areas. Just a staggering amount of water.
Okay, and then literally on the other side of the world, India. Cyclone Montha.
Right. Made landfall on the eastern coast. It was a severe cyclonic storm, weakened a bit over land, but still packing winds up to 100 kilometers per hour near the coast of Andhra Pradesh.
What's the human impact looking like there?
Well, authorities acted fast, evacuated tens of thousands, set up more than 1,900 relief camps, but estimates suggest around 4 million people could still be affected by its path.
And the bigger picture connection here.
It's what scientists keep pointing to. Climate change. Warming ocean temperatures provide basically a lot more energy for these tropical storms to feed on, makes them potentially stronger, more intense.
More energy, more destructive power. Okay, let's talk about a different kind of pressure, political pressure. Tanzania's general election.
Yes, President Samia Suluhu Hassan looks set to consolidate her power. But the sources we have paint a picture of this happening alongside increasing repression.
How so? What makes this election stand out?
Well, analysts are calling it arguably the least competitive since Tanzania returned to multi-party politics back in '92.
Least competitive, why?
Because key opposition candidates, specifically from the two main parties, Chadema and ACT Wazalendo, have been disqualified, essentially removed from the running.
Any specific examples?
Yeah, Tundu Lissu, the vice chair of Chadema, a very prominent figure, he was arrested. Charges included treason and cybercrime. His disqualification and others like it basically clears the path for the incumbent.
And wasn't there hope initially that President Hassan might be different from her predecessor?
There was. She started off rolling back some of Magufuli's more authoritarian policies. But according to these reports, that didn't last. The accusation now is of a grim return to the repression of the past.
Are there other signs of this repression?
Yes. UN experts flagged concerns. Over 200 cases of enforced disappearances reported since 2019. They've called for it to stop immediately.
Enforced disappearances. That's serious.
Very. And it's not just unknown figures. Even a former ruling party insider, Humphrey Pol, who became a critic, he was reportedly abducted just earlier this month. It suggests a pattern of silencing dissent, controlling the narrative.
Controlling the narrative. That's a really interesting transition point.
Yeah.
Because now we're going to look at a place that completely changed its narrative, but through consensus for economic survival. Sleepy Hollow, New York.
Ah, yes. It's a fascinating case study in local rebranding, really. Most people probably don't realize that for, most of the 20th century, it wasn't called Sleepy Hollow.
Right. It was North Tarrytown. Its identity was all about the General Motors plant there.
Exactly. And when that plant closed in the mid-90s, it was devastating economically. The town basically had to figure out, okay, what are we now? What's our future?
And they looked to Washington Irving.
They did. Residents actually voted in 1996 to change the name officially to Sleepy Hollow, embracing the connection to the legend of Sleepy Hollow.
Though the name itself is older, isn't it?
It is. That's a great detail. Sleepy Hollow goes back way before Irving's 1820 story. Dutch colonizers in the 1600s called the area Sleeper's Hall. Sleeper's Hollow.
So they didn't just change the name. They went all in on the legend.
Completely. The Headless Horseman is basically the town mascot now. You see him on street signs, even police cars, apparently.
And this isn't just quaint. It's business, right? Serious economics.
Absolutely critical. The sources say the 6 weeks leading up to Halloween are crucial for survival for many local businesses. They depend heavily on that influx of tourists drawn by the legend.
So they built up attractions around it.
Oh, yeah. Things like Twilight Village at Phillipsburg Manor, readings of the legend at Irving's old home, Sunnyside. They create that immersive experience people are looking for.
But there's friction, isn't there?
Yeah.
Between the myth people expect and the reality of a working town.
Big time. A lot of visitors apparently arrive not fully realizing Sleepy Hollow is a real place with, regular people living and working there.
They think it's just the story.
Yeah.
Or maybe a movie set.
Sort of. They might assume Irving made it all up, or they expect it to look exactly like the Disney cartoon or the Tim Burton movie. They come looking for, say, a specific covered bridge that only exists in fiction.
And managing that expectation must be tough, especially in places like the cemetery.
Oh, definitely. The superintendent there, Jim Logan, talked about that. It's a huge 90-acre working cemetery. Famous burials, too. Irving himself, Andrew Carnegie, John D. Rockefeller.
Yeah. So real history, real gravity.
Exactly. But tourism has apparently exploded, and he described the difficulty, like visitors sometimes refusing to move out of the way for actual funeral processions. Yeah. And this anecdote really captures the disconnect. A tourist apparently asked him if the cemetery staff put out the gravestones just for the Halloween season.
Oh, wow. as if they were props.
Exactly. Genuinely seeming not to grasp that they were permanent memorials and that people had actually been buried there, like that very morning. It's this weird collision of historical reality and seasonal entertainment.
What a journey through these sources today. We've
Yeah.
gone from, the grim specifics of tunnel warfare in Gaza
To the overwhelming force of 30 inches of rain hitting Jamaica.
to the deliberate suppression of political opposition in Tanzania.
And ended up with the town successfully banking its future on, well, on a ghost story.
So across all this, what's the thread? What connects Gaza, Jamaica, Tanzania, and Sleepy Hollow for you, the listener?
I think it shows how these massive forces, geopolitics, climate, economics, they constantly reshape things at the local level, and often the real understanding, the memorable bit, comes from those tiny specific details we talked about.
Like the soldier in the tunnel ambush,
Or the potential 4 million affected by a cyclone.
or someone asking if gravestones are seasonal decorations.
Right. Those specifics make the big picture real.
So let's loop back to that idea of narrative we touched on with Tanzania and Sleepy Hollow. What's the final thought there?
Well, it's quite a contrast, isn't it? You have Sleepy Hollow, which consciously chose and built a shared beneficial myth, a story, to replace a lost industrial identity. It seems to work for them, economically at least. It's a narrative embraced by consensus.
Okay. And Tanzania.
And then you have Tanzania, where the sources suggest political power is being used forcefully to suppress competing narratives, to enforce one single story by silencing opposition. Repression, not consensus.
So the provocative thought for you to take away today is this. What allows a community, a society, to willingly rally around a useful myth like Sleepy Hollow did? And maybe more importantly, what are the warning signs when powerful narratives aren't rising from consensus, but are being pushed down through control and repression? Something to think about as you navigate the stories shaping your own world.